I'm Bianca Cotton, host of Behind the Confident Smile, and I am here with Brandi Green today. Thanks for being here, Brandi.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Brandi and I are going to be talking about her journey with living with albinism.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yes, we are already ready from our conversations over the couple of years about your journey with living with albinism. So let's go back to your childhood. And what was your earliest memory of realizing that, okay, my skin looks different than maybe my parents and those that I go to school with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my earliest memory, it was like where it kind of really resonated for me was around 8 years old. And I asked my father, like, just why am I white? You know, like what, I have questions, you know? And I think, you know, he didn't really know what to do with that question. He didn't really, he just wasn't prepared to answer me, or maybe didn't know how to say it in a way that would make sense. So he basically was like, you know, we have white people in our family way back when, and, you know, just like an answer like that. And in my 8-year-old mind, I was like, that doesn't cut it. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't, you know, but I'm gonna let it slide, you know, like, but it just never was satisfying for me. And so I had just continued to have questions after that, you know, regarding my identity and just why I look different.
Did you ever ask your mom that question too?
Well, so, okay, my mom was I never asked her that question. People in my family had told, you know, had just like kind of casually said in passing, oh, you know, Brandi's an albino, blah, blah, blah. But she didn't like that word. She didn't like me to be associated with that word. And she didn't like people to say it. So people stopped saying it. So it wasn't like really an inviting kind of experience to ask her that. She would just always say, you know, you're light skinned, you're no different than anybody else, you're just light skinned. And that wasn't satisfying either, because it just didn't click for me. It just didn't fully give me the answers that I was seeking. So yeah.
So in your 8-year-old self, right? Not being satisfied with what you were being told by your parents, how long did you journey in your life feeling unsatisfied?
Bianca, it was a long time, because it's kind of like I was not getting answers inside my home, but I was getting all the answers outside of my home. People were very vocal and being like, hey, you're an albino, or like, what are you? Are you albino? Or, you know, and so it was deeply, deeply confusing to just be able to like take in all these messages and try to understand like what is happening. Like, I have so many questions about my identity. Like, I'm not getting the answers. I'm getting answers outside. I'm getting answers inside. But none of this is like, it didn't reconcile. I wasn't able to reconcile it because I was getting two totally different messages. So it really took a long time. It really took until I got some answers my first year of college, when I met another woman with albinism who looked like me, had a similar shared experience, things like that. That's when I started to put the pieces together, and that's when it made sense, and that's when the answers started to really come, and I really started to understand my identity more.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from 8 to
18,
to a decade of who am I? What is albino? Like, I hear people saying this outside my home, but not inside my home. What did that do for you going through elementary school and high school? not feeling reconciled in your identity?
I was to say I had like an identity crisis. It's an understatement. I was out here floating, like I was just trying to. I was like, I didn't always fit in Black environments. I definitely didn't fit in white environments. I was just trying to just see where I fit in. Like, I went through a lot of teasing and bullying from students who, kids who just didn't understand. And they themselves had questions, and I couldn't help them because I barely helped myself. And I went through this stage in high school where I was like, I went through like this acting black stage, and I was like, I'm gonna just be like really rebellious, and I'm gonna act like I'm from the hood. I'm from Beverly, so
which is not the hood.
Which is not the hood. And I was like doing all this stuff in high school. People from high school remember me a totally different way than at least the early years, because I just went through a phase where I was just like, I'm gonna talk back, I'm gonna be rebellious, I'm gonna curse you out. Because all these things, like, I was just trying to find myself. So I was pulling at whatever identity, whatever was deemed Blackness or a certain type of way Blackness was represented. I was just trying to just put it in anything. When you're lost and you don't have anything, you start, in terms of your identity, you reaching for things. You just reaching because you like, well, let me try this on for size. Does this work for me? That did not work for me. It wasn't me. Like, but I did go through that because I was like trying to fit in with Black students, with other students, and I just wanted to be accepted. So I'm like, if I talk like this, if I go off, if I have an attitude, like, maybe I'll be accepted. So
acceptance.
It was
belonging.
a journey.
Yeah. So you get to college, you finally see someone that looks like you. So, question, is this the first person you've seen that look like you when you get to college?
No, not the first person. I will say, because I just didn't have any answers, I was in denial about my albinism. So seeing people wasn't like, oh my gosh, you look like me. We look like, it was more like, oh my goodness, like, wow, like I'm facing something. I'm facing something, like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to walk away. I didn't see that person. I mean, I saw them, but I'm not going to like approach them or do anything. So I had been in school with somebody who also had she was younger than me. She also had albinism, and people were like, that's your sister. And I was like, no, that's not my sister. And I had seen her, but it was just too much to kind of face it. So yeah, I'm gonna take advantage of these.
That's fine.
These little tissues, thank you.
So you in college, you meet this woman. Take us on the journey of, like, how was the first conversation and what happens after you all have this, I would say, meeting of minds, right?
Yes. So I get there. I went to school in the middle of Iowa, very small school. Not many Black people. And, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. This is happening. And I was there, and a few weeks in, people started calling me, by another person's name, and I was like, I don't know, like, we just got here, we all learning names, but that's not my name.
Right.
But then it made sense when I saw who they were calling me. I was like, oh. And so she is another woman with albinism. She happened to work in student affairs at the time, and she has albinism. She's Black like myself. And when I saw her, I was just like, oh my gosh, and I totally just, I was just clinging to her, like, just being under her, getting as much of her wisdom as I could, because she was older than I am. She had a family. She was in her career. She had just lived life, and it was just amazing. Like, she was everything that I needed. I wouldn't have imagined that both of our worlds would have collided in Iowa, just randomly on a college campus. Like, but we had similar shared experiences, experiences with our particularly with our parents, and kind of how they reacted to us and accepted us. We just had a lot in common, and I just saw how confident she was, and I was like, I want that. I want that. And yeah, it makes me emotional, because she was everything that I was looking for, and that I needed during that time.
That's beautiful. What's her name?
Her name is Suzette.
Suzette, hey, girl. Thank you.
And she's still my big sis. I love her. I talk to her, not as often because of life, but she's still a huge part of my life. She's still someone that supports me and that I go to. And I don't know if she knows, like, what she did for me in those moments. And so I just really want her to know, like, she really impacted me. So I just, want people to know, like, the power of mentorship and the power of just really impacting people and being in their lives and needing them. And you might think you're doing something really simple, or you're not doing anything, but you really are. So, yeah. Sorry.
You're fine, Brandi.
This gets me emotional.
It is part of the healing journey.
Yes.
Yes. That's beautiful.
Yes.
So you and Suzette, right?
Yes.
Was she the first person to explain to you what albinism was?
Yes. She was the first person to explain. She took the time. She was really patient, even when I was, like, resistant, even when I was, like, still working through my rebellious area, She really took the time. She connected me with NOAA, which is the National Organization for Albinism and Hypopigmentation. And that opened up so many doors to me, like community, everything. So she was just amazing. That's taking the time to explain albinism, just her experiences, like everything. Everything. I would stay in her office for hours, and I'm sure students wanted to see her, but I was like, no, all mine.
When you find your tribe, you like, I found my people.
I don't want to share. No, I'm sorry. I'm sure she have to help you with your grades, but I'm trying to get my healing over here. So.
Yes, get the healing. So explain what albinism is.
So albinism is a genetic condition that causes a lack of pigment in the hair, skin, and eyes. So it's different genes, different types of genes that we all don't look alike. Even there's other Black people with albinism who there are some who kind of share the characteristics that I have, like more golden hair. But there are some people with albinism who are Black who have white hair. It just depends. On the albinism, there's a gene, OCA brown, which they have more brown, like more sandy brownish or like brown kind of features. So there's different types of genes. It affects our vision. We have low vision, so we can't see very far. Some of us wear glasses, some of us don't. Glasses don't always help. With our vision, extremely light sensitive, and we have nystagmus, which means our eyes move just like uncontrollably and like kind of shift back and forth. And our skin is very sensitive. Wearing sunscreen is important for everybody, but especially important for us in terms of, just protecting our skin. And yeah, that's kind of just every day. It is genetic. Yeah.
So you said it's genetic. So that means does that mean that a parent like carries the gene?
Yeah, both parents have to carry the gene. Now, it's been a long time since I took biology. So, but it is recessive. So my understanding is that both parents need to carry the gene for it to have a percentage of being expressed, I believe. So both of my parents carried the gene. There is, to my knowledge, nobody in my families that have albinism. It's me. So yeah, and even just being in my families, just seeing all the different shades of blackness, but just also being alone in my unique identity,
right,
has been a journey too. So.
Definitely.
What's up, Chicago? I'm Darius Caffey, and I invite you to join me for a new episode of The Table on Air with co-owner of Nobody's Darling Bar in Andersonville, Renata Riddle.
The space that we created was for the person that was in the mirror, right?
Join the conversation with us on Tuesday, November 28th at 7:30 p.m. on CanTV Cable Channel 19, streaming on cantv.org, and available on the CanTV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
So with me going to college, meeting Suzette, did you tell your parents, like, I met somebody who is helping me understand what I've been seeking to understand? Like, did that conversation ever happen?
I tell my father, like I said, my conversations with my mom weren't always inviting and safe. So I just didn't really share a lot, or I really didn't share a lot about myself or open up. I always say I learned to put on a mask very early, just to kind of mask my feelings and my true self, because I just felt like it wasn't always welcomed or safe to do so. But I had the total opposite experience with my father. He was open, he was supportive, he was happy. That I just felt better. I just met somebody that understood and found out more about myself. So that was a positive experience. He was really supportive. He eventually, he is no longer with us, but he was, he went to some NOAA meetings with me in the city. Because we had a chapter in Chicago, and we had different events, and he went with me to a couple, and that meant the world to me, just to have his support. So in that way,
Definitely, definitely. How has the journey been for you at this time in your life, not feeling safe to share what you were learning with your mom?
I think I approach things differently now. Obviously, I'm older. I know things. I know parents do the best with what they have and what they're able to give. She just wasn't able to give me certain things. And so I think a lot of that, I just had to make peace with and say, this is what it is. I wasn't able to get certain things for her. Thank God I was able to get things from my father that I wasn't able to get from her. But I think I've just made peace with it, in the sense this is what it is. This is what it is. This is what it was at the time. And there were things from her upbringing that she had no control over that really impact how she showed up in her motherhood. That weren't always helpful, healthy, anything. What wasn't what I needed, anything like that. But at the same time, I have to recognize that she did the best with what she could do at the time, and that's where she was, and I guess that's where I am now with and I think even that experience, all experiences, good and bad, make you who you are and kind of help you form the person that you are and the person that you're becoming. So I think it's just been a journey and many, many hours of therapy. Let's not forget that. Therapy, prayer, and just making peace with the fact that this is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
And it's okay. So in all of your not knowing your identity, and then being able to reconcile that in college, you decide to write a children's book. Like, you're like, it's not enough for me to just get my healing, but I want to help young people. What was going on with you that you decided to make that move?
So it was several things, it was like we were in the pandemic, in the panoramic,
yes.
Towards the beginning of it. And, I'm always somebody that likes to be creative, likes to do things. Just like if I have an idea, I'm just going to do this. So, this had been something that has been on my mind, just a lack of representation of characters with albinism in media and books. Now, when they're in media, they're often very problematic. Let's think of Powder, like they're often seen as like supernatural, or they're, just in some way not really human, not really given the humanity that we should be given. So I just remember not growing up seeing like, I was really into reading, Bernstein Bears, Ramona.
I love Bernstein Bears.
Yes, all the Babysitters Clubs. I was just Fear Street. I was reading them all. I couldn't keep my head out of a book because I just really love books. And, my parents were very big on like, you're Black, so you get all these Black things. You go get these Black just dolls. We got Black Jesus, Black Santa Claus. So that was very prevalent in my home. I remember like when those like, I guess these 3 feet dolls were very popular back in the 80s. And they brought me like a real dark skin, like a dark skin, like 3 feet doll, and she was beautiful. They were like, they didn't like, they tried to put me around like different shades of Blackness and they were just real conscious about me having Black Barbie dolls and things like that. And I was like, I was just like, she's beautiful, but like, we don't look nothing alike, So that was always a part of my life. So I just really didn't grow up seeing me though. Even flipping through Jet or Ebony or Essence or whatever, like I just never really saw me. So I was just like, okay, well, it's very, we all know representation matters. It's so important to see yourself. Correct. So I was like, okay, I want to contribute to this lack of representation and put out this children's book. It's light, it's fun. I
love it. I read it to my kids.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the support. But just like I don't know, there's just a freedom in children's books where you can just do and say, like, there's just such a lightness and just, I don't know, that I really needed at the time, especially in the panini, and so it just allowed like a little escape for me as well. But ultimately I wanted to just really put representation, or I wanted to add to it, because there are a few things I don't. There are a few other books out there I don't, and that their characters with albinism are portrayed positively and with humanity. So I don't want to say that I'm not saying that I'm doing everything, but I definitely wanted to contribute to it, because it's just so important that we all see ourselves. And I wanted these younger generations of children, particularly Black children with albinism, to see themselves.
That's powerful. And thank you for turning your pain into purpose, right? And sharing it and saying, you know what? I'm going to contribute to the representation. I'm going to contribute to someone else's journey.
Yes.
And thank you for that.
Thank you.
As we come to a close, what is one word of wisdom you want to say to your younger self?
Woo!
One, Brandi. One.
That's such a really good, heavy question. That it will be okay. You're going to go through some things, but it will be okay, because it's, you know, it's going to make you who you are. It's going to propel you towards your purpose. And you're going to be okay.
You're going to be okay. And look at you today, friend. Look at you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us and writing that children's book, which I know is more to come. Put that in there.
Let's speak it. Let's
yes.
speak it.
Yes.
Well, I'm thankful to be able to share my story, and also just for the community and the village that held me along the way, and of course to God, who made everything possible. So I'm just really grateful to just be at this point in my life and to be able to share with others. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you all for tuning in.